computer. There we go. So we're back recording again. So Paul, okay. So Ruth, feel free to, if you need to leave, down the bottom right of your screen, you'll have a leave button, and you can turn off of. You can.
All right, I would like to listen to Paul though.
Sorry. Oh, if you want to listen to Paul, do stay. So
I would like to listen to Paul. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So right, Paul. I don't know much about the tennis club. Do tell me about it. And we've got some questions as well, so we'll alternate.
Yeah, and Ruth's given me a very nice sort of intro, really, because she mentioned the new Beaconsfield Hall in Shipton under Wychwood, so it's right next door. And I sometimes used to kind of see Ruth going into her yoga classes, and because I've done Ruth's wonderful yoga classes, I sometimes felt a little bit disloyal while I was going to play tennis. But just to tell you a little bit about the club, there's 435 members. The membership grew by 95 in the last year, which is quite something. We've got 170 juniors, 100 of those are in coaching. And according to the LTA, the Lawn Tennis Association, it's one of the most successful clubs in the country for a club with 3 courts, no clubhouse, no lights. It's 70 years old, at least it was last year. And a couple of times in recent years, it's been voted Oxfordshire Tennis Club of the Year. The majority of people live within 5 miles of the club. About a quarter of the membership live in the village itself. And it's really quite a remarkable tennis club, I would say. I don't think people quite understand that, you know, having 435 members and so many juniors, whenever we're playing matches against other clubs, they're quite overwhelmed by the numbers.
Can you tell us what sort of year 2020 was for you as a club?
Yeah, I suppose the kind of word that a lot of people use, but it's true, is it was challenging. What we did was follow the government and the LTA's instructions to the letter. So, you know, in a way, we were just responding to what they were saying. And we then followed the protocols when we could open very strictly. I mean, one of the good things about tennis, as we've discovered in the last year, is that it's a very socially distanced sport. So it's one of the ones that has been able to open up, as it will do on the 29th, earlier than other sports, because it really kind of is quite well suited if you're trying to socially distance. I think particularly the kind of juniors in the club were really delighted when they could get back out on court, and you really felt that sense of, you know, it's that thing when something that you take for granted is taken away from you. When you then come back on, you get the community, you get the activity. It really kind of brought that home a lot. And so I think a kind of greater appreciation and certainly for me personally in the last 3 months, particularly in the last couple of weeks, I've really kind of missed it.
So do you get whole families? Is it a real family event? So
well, we get everybody. I mean, tennis at the club starts with something called Teddy Tennis, which is for young as 3 or 4 in the new Beaconsfield Hall, and right up to, I don't know who the oldest player in the club is, but they're going to be in their 80s. So we've got a very extensive coaching program. So there's 100 juniors in coaching. So on a typical day after school or on a Saturday, they're in coaching. So there's various teams playing competitively in different leagues. The men's A team during the winter is in the Premier Division. There's kind of all sorts of people in the club. But I think it's, and certainly some of those of families and families in the village, yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Sorry, I just a bit distracted. We had an unusual post coming in on Wychwood TV, so we had to block that. So apologies if you have been watching and saw that. Yes, okay, right. Let's deal with the thorny issue, lighting. Tell me what's going on.
Well, what's going on is that we've applied to get lights on the 2 furthest courts from the from the A361. Just to kind of say, because as you say, it's a controversial matter, we accept that there are implications, there are downsides to having lights, both in terms of people's concerns over light spill and ecology. So on the subject of light spill, and I'll come on to the kind of benefits of having lights in a moment, but the zero light spill upwards from the lights. You can light each court individually, and the latest technology really allows you to focus the lighting down on the court surface so you get very little light beyond the court surface. The lights turn off automatically when they're not in use, and there are dimmers on the light. So for instance, when the lights are being used for coaching, which we think will be a very popular time for the kids after school, they'll be on 300 lux, which is really quite low. On ecology, we did an extensive independent survey. It's a very complex area, ecology, and you really have to have expertise in this area. So we submitted the report to the West Oxfordshire. The biodiversity officer there has said it's satisfactory. And in fact, yesterday she said that what she would like is particular kind of timings and seasonality to make sure that the lights go off at about 9 o'clock in the evening, and that we don't light too many months of the year, if you like. But she had no concerns voiced around any ecology. I mean, the benefits are particularly for the juniors. I think, you asked about COVID, and I think the group that suffered most has been children and families, working age adults of families who've really suffered. And I think the health benefits and the sport benefits of having year-round tennis for the juniors. I mean, I'll just read you just one quote from a junior who lives in the village. And he said, "I'd really like floodlights." He's put this actually on the West Oxfordshire site because it would allow me and my dad to go down and play after his work. It would also allow the tennis club to go on longer and not have to finish early because of the darkness. Last year, I could not do my coaching because my mum could not drive me to Chipping Norton. And really, when you think about it, that's the kind of group we want to focus on. The people least able to play in the winter are the juniors and the working age adults. I mean, frankly, people like me can play quite flexibly, so I don't really need that. The other thing just to mention is that the school, the Wychwood Primary School, was given lights from their multi-use games surface. Anybody wants to see it, it's a similar setup. It's got a bit more light actually than we would have, and it doesn't point down vertically, which ours do, but that was approved. We've also agreed to do some planting to kind of mitigate and actually create new habitat. So community, mental and physical well-being, and really to add to the vibrancy of Shipton under Wychwood.
Yeah, I'm getting that message. I mean, basically, you had a massive influx of people, and I do actually find the ecological argument quite challenging because we built a lot of houses in the village over the last 2 to 3 years, and presumably they had an impact on the ecology and the area of outstanding natural beauty. For those of you who are watching this program, I have no view one way or the other, at least not publicly. What you need to do is look at both sides of the argument. We've posted links in the Wychwood post to both sides of the argument, and then comment as you see fit on the Wychwood post. However, what is certain to me is whatever the decision taken by the planning committee, over the last few years, we've had a number of decisions on political issues, the houses in St Jude's and the other housing estates, Brexit being a case in point, and now we've got the lights. I'm not saying it's on the same scale, but we as a community have to accept the decisions of the politicians and then just get on and live well together. And so whatever the outcome, Paul, do rest assured of our support for your tennis club because you're doing amazing work there. I'd like to ask, in your coaching, could you get someone like me to play an overhead backhand smash at tennis? Because I could never manage that.
Well, definitely. I mean, we've very fortunate. Not only we've got Chris Hampton, who is a very highly accredited coach and actually coaches at Wimbledon at weekends. Yeah. But we've got 2 very good female coaches in the club. There's a lot going on to promote female coaches in the club. And essentially you can start from anywhere. And Alan, you're enthusiastic. You want to kind of give things a go.
Yeah.
And the club would be delighted to coach you.
Right. I played badminton at St Mary's Badminton Club in Witney. And when a new person arrives, the first question I always ask is, can you do a backhand smash? Because I reckon that's the difference between beginners and really good players. So if you can get me to do a backhand smash, trust me, you are a real skillful coach. So yes. Okay, lovely. Right. Well, we're running out of time. Is there anything else you wanted to say, Amanda? Are we getting any
No.
questions? I don't think we are we? So
We haven't had any questions in.
right. Okay. Maybe the issue is not as thorny as we thought it was. Paul, have you got anything else you'd like to say?
No, just I think there's an awful lot at stake, because I think there's a real need for us to provide facilities for the youngest people in our community, and sport and health is key to that.
Yeah. So the tennis club, the football, the cricket club, I know.
Absolutely, yeah.
I know the cricket club very well. I must admit it would frighten me having this hard red ball flying towards me at 80 miles an hour, but some people enjoy that game. So I did like fielding though. So if Howard Voice, if you're listening, I'd like fielding. Yeah. So yeah, no, the cricket club's a good place to be, and that's like you. It's been very successful. It used to be. You won several village cricket tournaments, didn't it? So it's very good, and also the football teams. They're just really excellent. You know, if we can encourage. Because I remember last year we had a big fuss because some youngsters were running riot, and I think as a community, what we want to be able to say is, there's no need for you to run riot because there's stuff you can do that will tire you out. So yeah. So
Yeah. Alan, can I just end with another quote that did come in from a 9-year-old in the club? And he said, "I love being outside and running around. It makes me feel happy. Too much being in the house makes me feel grumpy. And I really like the animals too. So I'm pleased that the lights don't spill out or upwards, and that there will be some new bushes for the animals to hide in." So right. I think it's quite touching when you get comments from.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well done for doing that. So, okay. Right.
There's a question just come through asking how many will benefit from the lighting. I think you probably answered that earlier when you mentioned how many juniors you have, really.
Yeah, I think particularly it's the kids after school. I mean, we would think the most usage is going to be 4:30 to 6:30, 7 o'clock for the coaching, which will happen every day. So as I say, we've got 170 juniors, 100 in coaching, and we would probably, so there's at least that group. And then obviously you've got working age adults as well.
Lovely. Okay. Well, I was going to ask you how much you upset the neighbours, but I think Ruth White answered that she quite enjoyed living next door to the tennis club, so watching the games going on. I must admit, when I go down the gym, I occasionally peek a sneak preview in the hope that I see some of the famous people in the village trying to play tennis. So occasionally we do. So yes. Okay, lovely. Right. Well, it's 7:30, so that's the end of our time now. Thank you so much, Paul, for going on. Thank you, Amanda, for asking the questions. And we'll be back next week, and we'll announce in the group what it's likely to be on. So thank you very much. Okay, it's goodbye from me.
Goodbye.
Okay, and it's goodbye from them. Thank you. Okay, there we go. Ending the meeting now.